as we are now expecting the arrival of our esteemed chief guest, the Chief of Army Staff, in any moment from now. Ladies and gentlemen, we heartily welcome the Chief of the Army Staff. As we welcome the Chief of the Army Staff, our esteemed Chief Guest, General Upendra Dwivedi, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, coming forward and gracing this occasion. Sir, thank you very much for your gracious presence. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste to you. I am your host. My name is Shikha Singh, and on behalf of Director General Claus, it is our honor to be greeting our esteemed chief guest, eminent panelist, distinguished foreign dignitaries, our dear veterans, senior military officers, members of the academia, and friends from the media. A hearty welcome to all of you to this curtain raiser for the Chanakya Defense Dialogue 2024, which is presented to you by the Indian Army in collaboration with the Center for Land Warfare Studies, CLAWS. Today, ladies and gentlemen, as a precursor, we will delve into how the Indian Army plays such a pivotal role in realizing the vision of Viksit Bharat 2047, ensuring inclusive, sustainable growth amidst the complexities of geopolitical dynamics, technological advancements, and social cohesion. Let's embark on this critical dialogue to forge actionable insights for a secure and a prosperous future. To render the welcome address, may I now invite forward Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, retired Director General Claus. Sir, please.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Chief of the Army Staff, Vice Chief of the Army Staff, Shri Chintan Vaishnav, Member of Niti Aayog and Head of the Atal Innovation Mission, General Shankar, Lieutenant General Dr. Mrs. Kanitkar, Member of the Legislative Assembly of Arunachal Pradesh, Mr. O'Kane, distinguished dignitaries, officers, esteemed veterans, foreign dignitaries, Mrs. Palki Sharma, friends from the media, a very good morning to all of you. It is my distinct honor to welcome you all as we embark on this year's journey of the curtain raiser for the Chanakya Defense Dialogue 2024. Each of you brings invaluable experience and insight, and we are thrilled to have you here today as we explore an overarching theme critical to our nation's future, and that is drivers in nation building, fueling growth through comprehensive security. National power, as you may know, is not just about military might or economic strength alone. It's about holistic capacity of a nation to achieve its strategic goals on both regional and global stage. National security forms the bedrock of this power, creating a safe and a stable environment where economic growth, technological advancements, and social progress can thrive simultaneously. As is often said, only safe borders shepherd true development. Uh, Throughout our history, if we look back, we find that whenever we have grown to a particular level, we used to refer to India as Sone ki Chidya, we have been actually harmed by foreign aggressors. I don't think we need to repeat that mistake again. So as we move towards the path of Viksit Bharat, it becomes a bounden duty of us, all those people who are in the business of security, to ensure that security and development go hand in hand, judiciously appropriating strength to each of these two particular pillars. Our adversaries respect strength, and that strength comes from resilient, robust foundation of national power. This very spirit is captured in the theme of this year's Chanakya's Defense Dialogue. We will explore how comprehensive security serves as a driver for national growth, building a strong, prosperous India in the Amrit Kal. Today begins event. We are honored to have our Chief of the Army Staff, General Upender Dwivedi, in conversation with Mrs. Palki Sharma. I think that would be the showstopper for the curtain raiser, as also the main event, Chanakya Defense Dialogue. This will set the stage and tone for events to come as we unfold Chanakya Defense Dialogue over a series of number of events which we will be undertaking throughout this particular period between today and 24th and 25th of October. We would be having podcasts, we would be having YouTube discussions with eminent YouTube personalities. Some of them are sitting here. Jan Shankar is one of them. I think we will be collaborating with various think tanks regionally as well to ensure that by the time we reach Chanakya Defense Dialogue main event, a crescendo is set for people to come and join us in Zorawar, which has got a seating capacity of over 800 people. So we expect a much, much larger crowd when we unfold the main event at Zorawar Hall, right here in this particular precinct. We will be graced, the event will be graced by the Raksha Mantri of our country. Mr. Rajnath Singh has kindly agreed to be the chief guest for that particular event. Following this fireside chat between Palki and the chief, we are going to have a panel discussion which will be moderated by the Vice Chief of Army Staff, General Raja Subramani. And the theme would be a secure nation and a prosperous future, bridging national security with growth and development. On behalf of the Chief of Army Staff, finally, I would like to once again extend my heartfelt thanks to all the panelists, attendees, for making time to join us today for this important dialogue. Your presence and perspectives will undoubtedly enrich our conversation. I'm confident that today's discussion will be stimulating and energizing, contributing to our shared vision of a Viksit Bharat by 2047, a nation where every citizen is proudly going to say, nation first, always and every time. Wishing you all an enriching learning experience from this particular sessions and the events to come about. Thank you very much, and Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, sir. We, ladies and gentlemen, are indeed honored to host this momentum setter that shall brace us for this year's Chanakya Defense Dialogue. Moving ahead, it is that highlight moment of the day. It will be my honor to request our esteemed chief guest, Chief of the Army Staff, to set the ball rolling by inaugurating the audiovisual teaser for the second edition of Chanakya Defense Dialogue 2024. Sir, please.
The world today is changing fast. Yet some things prevail stronger than change. wisdom prevails. Wisdom guides. It leads the way and shows what's right. Blessed by the wisdom of the ancient philosopher Chanakya. A strategist with a keen eye for defense. The Indian Army and Claws is back with its second edition of the Chanakya Defense Dialogue 2024. The inaugural 2023 edition united top minds from across the world, shedding light on AI, big data and beyond. We set the tone for India's defense leadership with Atmanirbharta as the mantra. In the journey of nation building, we see a common dream where growth is fueled through comprehensive security. A secure nation, a secure region, a secure world where peace reigns. The biggest defense leaders, strategists and think tanks assemble to strike a balance. Partnerships to technical know-how. Security, ecology, culture and more. Together, we strive to put India on the road to fulfilling its dreams of Viksit Bharat. The time has come for India to take its seat as the Vishwa Bandhu and give the world a safer, secure and stable identity. Chanakya Defense Dialogue 2024. Drivers in nation building. Fueling growth through comprehensive security.
Well, indeed, that being the snippet into the strategic exchange, the powerhouse that the second edition of Chanakya Defense Dialogue 2024 will truly be. Well, 24th and the 25th of October 2024 indeed marks an important date. And ladies and gentlemen, may I say, we are in this together. Well, on that note, as we march ahead, we will now transition into a fireside chat with our Chief of the Army Staff on the theme Pillars of Security, Powering India's Path to Viksit Bharat by 2047. The chat, as you know, will be moderated by an award-winning journalist, the managing editor at First Post Network 18, India's biggest news network. Join me in warmly welcoming on the stage this woman of eloquence and excellence, Miss Palki Sharma. Palki hosts the most watched First Post Vantage on YouTube, a speaker at prestigious institutions such as the London School of Economics and ISRO, etc. Palki, it is a delight to be greeting you and a delight to be hosting you. Well, with that, may I now take the pleasure of inviting our esteemed chief guest, the Chief of the Army Staff, General Upendra Dwivedi, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal. Sir, please. Thank you very, very much for joining us. And on that note, it's over to you, Palki. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Namaskar to all of you. We have very limited time, General Dwivedi, so I'll start with the question straight away. Good morning to you, and how are you today?
Thank you. As far the time is concerned, I am sure the next session under Vice Chief will be considerate enough to give us more time. So, so time will not be at shortage.
Fantastic. You took charge 3 months back, and it's been a period of churn for the neighborhood. Would you say that China is still the biggest security challenge for India, and how do you assess the situation at the border given the high levels of troop deployment and the tensions, and at the same time, statements from the Chinese side saying there is progress and more convergence and fewer differences?
So though I have taken 3 months, but it has 40 years of experience behind it.
Of course.
So as far as China is concerned, it has been intriguing our mind for quite some time. And I keep saying with China, you have to compete, you have to cooperate, you have to coexist, you have to confront and contest. So what's the situation today as we are looking at? The positive signaling is coming from the diplomatic side. But what we have to understand, the diplomatic side gives you the options and possibilities. But when it comes to the execution on ground, when it relates to the ground per se, it is dependent on the military commanders on both the sides to take those decisions. So what's the situation today? It's stable, but it's not normal and it's sensitive. So if that be the case, what are we wanting? We are wanting that the situation, what was there pre-April 2020, that should be restored back. Whether in terms of the ground occupation situation or the buffer zones which have been created or patrolling which have been kind of planned as of now. So till the time that situation is not restored, as far as we are concerned, situation will remain sensitive and we are fully operationally prepared to face any kind of a contingency which will come through. And in complete gamut, if we see, the trust has become the biggest casualty.
So do you see progress? Because that is the word that is being used a lot, that there is progress. Do you see a possible deal on, say, on Demchok or some other place?
So what we're talking about from April 20, if we see that over a period of time, both sides have been sitting together, diplomatic parleys have been taking place. We have had approximately 17 SHMCL or the Corps Commanders Level Conference. We had 21 WMCC conferences which have taken place. And we have come a long way in the sense whatever were the low-hanging fruit, those have been already been resolved. Now when it comes to the difficult situations where we have a different perception from both the sides, it means that both sides need to have in any negotiation win-win situation. So some kind of indication have been given from both the diplomatic side. Now the military side will sit together and see how this can be translated on ground. And when it comes, what is on the table? Everything which is we can think of, it's on the table along the northern front, and it also includes Depsang and Demchok.
China has also been building a lot of infrastructure, including the so-called model villages along the border, in an attempt to assert its claims, territorial claims. And India has, of late, also started building such villages, mostly in Arunachal Pradesh. Does it help in countering Chinese expansionism?
So let me take firstly why China is constructing those villages. Is the China population close or the Tibet population close to the line of actual control? I find most of the places the answer is no. So what they are doing, they are carrying out this artificial immigration, artificial settlement which are being carried out. No problem, it's their country, they can do whatever they want. But what we see in South China Sea, what's happening? That when we are talking about the gray zone, initially we find fishermen and those kind of the people who are in the forefront. And in order to save them, then you find the military moving in. So is it leading to some kind of a gray zone where the causation may look very simple, but it may have a grandiose design behind it? That's what we need to look into. As far as Indian Army is concerned, we already been having this kind of a model villages, etc., which we have been carrying out this job. We have Ops Sadbhavna, Ops Samaritan, we have been having these kind of resources. But what is more important, that the state governments have been empowered now to kind of put in those resources, and this is the time where the army, the state governments, and supervision by the central government, all three are coming together. So the model villages which are coming up now will be much more better. And here I will quote our Prime Minister on 1st of April 2023, when we talked about the Vibrant Village programs, he spoke to all the commander-in-chiefs. He said, what I am looking from the army is basically to provide the soul to these villages. What it means, if you translate, that cultural revival, the trust among the local population that the whole of India is supporting them. They are not the last village, they are the first village. The reverse immigration which must take place. The tourism must come up. and they should feel important wherever they are staying.
Let's also talk about Jammu and Kashmir. They're having an election as we speak, and we've seen the security situation evolve over the past 5 years since the scrapping of Article 370. How do you describe things at the moment? And we've also seen that in the past, terror attacks were concentrated in Kashmir, but now there's a new wave of attacks in Jammu. What explains this shift?
So before I come to present situation, I must quote August 2019, what happened, you all are well aware. And thereafter went as an army commander, and Devendra Pandey is sitting here, who was the corps commander, and we met one of the ladies, wife of one of the active politicians. And she said, after this abrogation of Article 370, at least my children know when the principal tells that please draw the flag of the country when you come back tomorrow during the Independence Day. As you are aware, the two countries have Independence Day one day after the other. Now they are very clear that which country flag to be drawn. Means the clarity which was there has only emerged after August 2019, that what J&K means to India and what India means to J&K. With that, if I have to talk today, what are the indicators what we see? What's the situation? Has it improved? Let's take calculation. Amarnath Yatra, in last 10 years, this has crossed the magic figure of 5 lakhs. 2023, more than 2 crores tourists have reached this area. The development is phenomenal. So if you take all the parameters which are there, let's take on the terrorism side, only 2 recruits, and that also in 2024 only 2 people have been recruited, where the figures used to be 100, 200, 300 earlier. If you see all these parameters, I feel we are moving towards peace and prosperity. Now, when you have some kind of a sand put on ground and you put the water, where does the water flow? Water flows to those places where you will find there is no obstacle. So what we had done, we had concentrated on southern Kashmir most of the time. We had concentrated in some areas of Punch, and if I can say that, Jammu. So the areas which were left, if I'll not say totally unaddressed, but what was there, we were looking for most peace and prosperity, because those places we could invest money. The development was forthcoming. Now those areas have been addressed now by the adversary, the country which is on the western border, and the terrorists which have come now are basically most of them foreign terrorists who have come, and they are going into these areas. Similarly, northern Kashmir also, these people are going into these areas. So what happened? We reoriented, re-energized, and refocused our forces which are there, security forces. But that's not important. What is more important, the police has gone in for a major revamp, because our state will only stabilize if its police is effective. And that's what we are trying to empower.
You also visited Manipur last month, and Manipur has been gripped by ethnic violence for more than a year now, and it doesn't help them that they have a border that they share with Myanmar, which is dealing with its own problems, and there are concerns about a spillover. What is your assessment of the ground situation there?
In the lighter vein, ek ke saath ek free. Because Manipur was a problem, and now you have the Myanmar problem also coming in. So as far as Manipur problem of you see in May 2023, it all started with a rumor that there was a Anglo-Kuki war centenary gate which is being burnt. It was not being burnt. I have gone on ground and confirmed from everyone. Now that rumor mongering led to major violence, which is still finding its kind of a stabilization phase which has not reached. So what has happened over a period of time? It has become a battle of narratives. There is a polarization between the communities. The situation may be stable today, but it is tensed. Now, what all can be done about it? But before that, what all other things which have happened? What you talked about, internally displaced people, the number reached to 60,000. Of course, with our perseverance now that has come to below 40,000. Similarly, this society has got weaponized to some extent. Why? Because the weapons were looted. That also needs to be seen. The women-led organizations have come up for the defensive purposes. The underground organizations have come up for the defensive purposes. The battle lines are getting hardened. Therefore, what we have done as of now, that firstly we have to be very clear, it has to be whole of nation approach. As far as the Army and Assam Rifle is concerned, we have deployed approximately 126 columns of Army and Assam Rifle combined together in conjunction with so many other stakeholders which are already operating in this state. And we are trying to calm down the situation. We are trying to bring in the trust. We are trying to restore the trust. It will take its own time, because when the social cracks or the social fracturing takes place, it takes own time to kind of recover. But what has also happened that we've been able to recover a large number of weapons. Approximately, if I can say that 25% of weapons have already been recovered, and double the weapon which are of local kind, that also been recovered. I've also gone and met the ex-servicemen, because they are the last bastion of national integration and social harmony. They are advising us how to go about it. We are working closely with them, as well as the central administration, to look into what are the possible lines of effort which we should go ahead in future.
Are there concerns about foreign assistance to certain militant groups from Myanmar?
If we retrace the history of Manipur, the issues are very, very complicated. We have to go back to the Kabao Valley and so on and so forth. We'll not talk about it. But what is important, we earlier had something called as Valley-Based Insurgent Groups, VBIGs. From where were they being supported? They were being supported from across. Now, similar kind of allegations is coming for the other groups. Out here, what we are looking at, that we should not allow wrong narratives to be built up. For example, there was a narrative of the bomb drones. We have gone on ground and checked up, there is no bomb drone. There was another wrong narrative which was said 900 anti-national elements have infiltrated. We checked up, there's nothing like that. So if we control that, I think things will be all right. Now what we're talking about, the external support. As far the external support is concerned, Myanmar is having its own problem. When we are having their own problem, what happens? They also have some people who are getting displaced. When they're getting displaced, where will they go? They will only go to those places which are peaceful and ready to accept them. And that's what is happening in Mizoram and Manipur. So those people who are coming, they are coming unarmed, and they are coming for some kind of a shelter. And India, the country we are, we will make sure that they provide the shelter, food and support till the time we can.
Right, and very rightly said, I think every war is beyond a point an information war. Globally, we are seeing geopolitical alliances shifting, and there are changing equations as well. And increasingly it appears that the best strategy in a scenario like this is to be self-reliant, Atmanirbharta. The world is, accepting this as a winning strategy. India has been at it for a while, including self-reliance and defense, Make in India and defense. How do you see the progress on that front, on defense development, production, technological innovation? Are we meeting our goals?
So before that, we see why Atmanirbharta has become important. In the recent wars, what we have seen, that these wars are going to be long duration. Mass fire, mass application, and innovative ideas and on-ground adaptation. If you see all these three things, you will find that arms and ammunition has to be your own. Platforms have to be your own. Then only you can have the capability to provide the surge. That is the only time when you can modify a platform. And you can only fight with your own arms because you know that the sustenance is possible. And over a period of time, what we have seen that when you get it from the other places, the modification to platforms and other things are not possible because the IPR is not there with you, the technology is not there with you, the sustenance spare parts are not there with you. Now coming on to the Indian Army, as far as the Indian Army is concerned, has taken a pledge that more than 85% of whatever acquisition we are carrying out will be of Indian origin. That is point number one. Our theme is Swadeshi Karan se Sashakti-karan. If that is the theme, even in the positive indigenization list what we are talking about, 35%, that is out of the 509 item, of 176 have been sponsored by Indian Army. The schemes of IDEX, Aditi, we are doing a great job in that also. Then Make 1 and Make 2, which has been now included in DAP 2020. This is basically to facilitate that the Indian industries get kind of motivated and they invest money. And here also we have been able to pitch in a lot of money. It comes to approximately 1.13 lakh crores is the money what we have invested. Then we also see as the PSUs are concerned, they have got corporatized. Now what does it mean? That till the time they do not become Atmanirbhar within themselves, we need to carry out hand holding. And that's what we are doing. While ensuring that as far as the private industry is concerned, we should be able to provide them the healthy ecosystem and give them the commitment and assurance that we are there for you. Now, this is as far as our actions are concerned. Now, certain more things what we are doing is the defense acquisition procedure which is there was made long back. And it was basically to look at whether the import items which are there, we are being fair and transparent in their acquisition or not. But now when we are talking about Atmanirbharta, I think we need to be more frank and open about it. So what we are doing, we have gone in for the emergency procurement, we are aware, EP4 which is there, 100% it has been indigenized procurement. We are also looking at accelerated procurement program, and this is my Deputy Chief CDNS is sitting here, he's working on that. And the best part is the Defense Secretary in the complete setup in the Ministry of Defense is also in agreement that we need to look into it. So we're working toward that also. Third thing is technology. It's moving so fast that if you wait for a year, you will get only your children mobile. You will not be able to get a new mobile. So if that be the case, means, or what we earlier used to say Moore's law, we need to move fast. And therefore the standard acquisition procedure and technology acquisition need to decouple. And we're working towards that.
Let's also talk about the war in West Asia, which is clearly expanding. I was coming this morning and I got a news flash that they've begun a ground offensive in Lebanon. The Israelis have become. Where do you think this is heading? And my second question on the same subject is that we've seen some disturbing precedents being set in this conflict, including the use of everyday gadgets and turning pagers and walkie-talkies into bombs, and it makes people think everywhere in the world that we're all carrying some gadget or the other at all points, and we're all sitting ducks. So does India share this concern about these methods, and what are we doing to ensure that we are not at the receiving end of something like this?
So let me take your point number one, which you said that the ground offensive is ready to start. Israeli saying is mow the grass, so that for some time thereafter at least there is rest. It will come up again, we'll take care again. And that's what they have been doing. But this time they have done something different. And if you read the India Way, the book written by our External Affairs Minister, he talks about if you have got two sides, which side will you handle first? You have to take sides. And he talked about something that Abhimanyu was not required to go for Chakravyuh. It was meant for Yudhishthir or Arjuna, so that they could have taken on that. But that is the time Arjuna was challenged by somebody else and he went there. Had he decided to go into the Chakravyuh, he would have come out alive and Abhimanyu would have got saved. Similarly, in this case, Israel has decided very clearly that Hamas is primary focus which I must maintain. So what is done? He's completely firstly wiped out the Hamas opposition. Thereafter he said, okay, let me see on the other side. And if you see the pager, what you're talking about, it's a Taiwan company being supplied to Hungarian company thereafter giving it to them. The shell company which has been created is something which is a master stroke by Israelis. And for that, it requires years and years of preparation. So it means they were prepared for it. And that is what it counts, that the war does not start the way you start fighting. It starts the day you start planning. And this is what is most important. So they had planned all these activities. And what they did, firstly, they made sure that the pages get blasted off. People get injured, people die. Okay. Now what happens? Perforce now you have to shift to mobile. Moment you shift to mobile, what happens? Your signals are getting triangulated. They also went way ahead. They went for the sonic boom. What they did, they flew the aircraft in a manner that the sonic boom makes a sound in different timings. Once it makes a different timings, and Nasrullah was creating a live relay. When he was creating a live relay, they carried out a triangulation methodology to focus which building is he staying. Now that kind of a something which is never heard of earlier. This is the first time we are hearing this kind of a thing. Coming on to our side, yes, the same threat rights. So supply chain interruption, interception is something we have to be very watchful. So we have to have various levels of inspection on all these issues, whether it is the technological level as well as manual level also, to make sure such things do not get repeated in our case.
We've been talking about Viksit Bharat for 2047. The government has set very ambitious goals, and I understand security is going to be a key part of it. What is India's strategic vision for 2047 on defense and security?
Ms. Palki, firstly, when we talk about prosperous nation at the rate of 2047, I think two prefixes are very important: progressive and peaceful. And moment you add this, the net security provided happens to be the Indian Army. When I'm saying all the three services all together, we become very important. So therefore, when we talk about the national security strategy or we talk about the dime, I think T has suddenly got added on itself because that has become very important, what we saw recently. So first of all, as far as the national security apparatus is concerned, there we play a very important role because as a security assurer, we need to have the capability of war fighting on both the fronts. And if we have the war fighting capability, then only it means that we'll act as a deterrence. As for the internal security is concerned, you are aware that what's happening on the western side, on the eastern side, and we are adequately poised to take care of that. Also in terms of HADR and other things, we are doing our job. Now what more is emerging is the gray zone. And after Doklam, what has happened, we realize that there is something gray zone which is existing. From self-denial, we move to now self-realization. Now is the time we have to work more on this because it's not only the land, it is the so many domains which are working in that we need to take care of. So we need to harmonize in the gray zone also. Now this is as far as the national security apparatus is concerned. Atmanirbharta we have already discussed, I would not like to cover that. Then we also need to look into defense diplomacy. Now defense diplomacy, we can play a very, very important role. Soft power we are the way we are. Defense exports we can encourage in a big way. Then best practices of the host country. We exchange our training teams, we exchange our training teams and other exercises what we are carrying out, and we find that a lot of experience can be gained from each sides. Also, there are a lot many the military narratives which are required to be synergized in terms of so many, if I can say, the regulations and resolutions which are passed in the UN where we need to sit together. UN peacekeeping force. Now I'll give you the example of resolution number 1235 which talks about women empowerment. Now that is something we have recently had a great discussion with Japan. We are having with other countries also. And we are one of those countries where 5 female engagement teams have been deployed. So this is as far as the diplomacy is concerned. Now, as far as the nation building is concerned, I think there is no end to the list which I can start on and on: environment conservation, women empowerment, infrastructure development, and sports, national integration. So there are a lot many things which we are doing in nation building. I'll just to give it a small kind of a summing up point on this issue is, when I carried out a discussion on Ladakh itself, we realized the army brings on the platter more money than the tourists bring on the platter for Ladakh. So wherever we are deployed, the local economy gets a big boost. If the JNK today is sustaining itself on its own, the military plays a very, very pivotal role in that.
That's a very interesting point and not covered enough in the media. Theaterization is being called a key part of the 2047 roadmap, and there are concerns around it. Some experts say that army will have more control because of the sheer size and presence. How do you address those concerns, and do you think India is ready for something like this?
Yeah, I can see more greens here, but I don't think the control will be with them. Yeah, I find others also here. So as far as theaterization is concerned, I don't know how much I can speak in open. But just to tell you, as far as this issue is concerned, General Rawat, our first CDS, laid a great foundation for that. And when General Anil Chauhan took over, he made sure that we will only go to the media or we'll tell others once we have been able to achieve a consensus. And we went in a big way. We had all Commander-in-Chief's conferences. We discussed a lot of issues, sorted out a lot of issues. And today we have a great consensus among the 3 chiefs and the CDS that we have been able to devise a complete structure, planning everything. And now at this stage, as CDS will also confirm that we are ready to present it to our decision makers that this is how we want to go about it. Now that requires what? It requires jointness and integration. So jointness 1.0, this is what we were looking at. wherever the small structures or the kind of organizations can be joined together. For example, courses of instructions we have the joint logistic nodes what we have. Then we went in for jointness 2.0. Jointness 2.0 talks about culture, thinking, symbology, all these things. So there also we have made a great progress. Now I'm sure by jointness 3.0 would also be coming. In this approximately 200 fields which we identified that we can look at jointness. And nearly 30% of that we have already achieved that jointness. Others we are working. And initially hiccups were there, the pace was slow, but now the pace is going to be very, very fast. Now the second question which you said, as far the army is going to get major share of it or not. As far as the population is concerned, I must say the difference between the Air Force and Army, if I can put that. Air Force USP is the technology, and Army's USP is the human resource. Air Force strength is centralization, and Army strength is decentralization at every stage, command, corps, division, and all that. Army follows a system of complex adaptive system. Others may follow a system of complex linear system. So there is a difference of opinion. But what is important is Army and land forces. What is bigger? Land forces, because everybody in the TBA comes into play. Then what is bigger than the land forces is the multi-domain. When we talk about the cyber, EW, space, cognitive, all these things. Now who's going to control all that? Will be one man or multiple teams? So if you have a Senate sitting together and deciding on that, I think the time will be past. So therefore you need one man to decide on that. Therefore theater commander is important. Can be from the Air Force, can be from the Army, can be from the Navy.
You make it sound easy. The government is also considering tweaks to the Agnipath scheme, and there are some reports that they will increase the retention rate. It may be a decision that is politically motivated, but whatever the reasons, and it is going to impact the force that you lead. What is your take on the recruitment debate?
So Palki, I'll start from you only, women empowerment. When we talk about it, when the women came into the army, we didn't know how to handle it. It was difficult. We had some plans, but what came on the platter was entirely different. Then we evolved over a period of time. Then we further built up on that. The courts also came in between. They also helped us to kind of converge on the correct path. Similarly, as far as the Agniveer is concerned, as of today, approximately by December 24, we'll be having 1 lakh population which will be in the Indian Army. What is the ground feedback? The ground feedback is excellent. When I talk to the CEOs and commanders, they're very happy with it. Because these people are enthused, ready to learn. They have the urge to showcase also what they have learned. And there was some fear they will compete with each other. Even I had that kind of fear. But when I go on ground, I recently visited my unit in Nyoma. And I realized, no, they're very happy. There is a great degree of cooperation among themselves. They're not competing with each other. So what it means that the youth profile which is required with our northern front rebalancing what we have done, the youth profile is definitely required. That is one. Second issue is that what are we doing about it? The aim is that the training which we were giving it for a longer period has to be given for a shorter period. And the youth which we are selecting is definitely better, because what we are doing now, we are firstly carrying out a written examination and thereafter we're going for the physical. So as far as his mental and physical synergy or the harmonization is concerned, is definitely better. When we talk about what will happen in future, it's an evolutionary process. For example, one thing we all agree that when we want ITI qualified personnel, then we need to increase the age. So that is already on the plateau what we are discussing. As for the other issues are concerned, internal discussion keeps taking place. So when something comes on that, I'm sure I'll give you a call and inform you.
I look forward to that. And on the point of women empowerment, I think next year when we meet for Chanakya Dialogue, there'll be probably more women in the hall as well. I'm very encouraged by your responses, and thank you for your frankness, General Trivedi. Thank you very much. Yes, sure. Oh. From me or from the audience? From me, of course. We talked about technological advancement. AI is something that a lot of countries are talking about, and recently some 60 countries gathered in South Korea to sign an agreement on using AI in military. It's the future, we all understand, but we don't quite, I mean, it's still the Wild West. Do you think that we have enough understanding and enough guardrails to deal with something like this?
So whenever you are carrying out a evolution, if I can say that, you will be having the infirmities and kind of insecurities will be there. But it does not stop you from improving yourself. So to begin with technology, if you're talking about, we have 16 technology clusters what we are having, where we have the principal staff officers responsible for it. That is point number one. Coming on to the artificial intelligence, what we understand that the data becomes very important. Artificial intelligence is the very mature stage which comes up very later. Firstly, we have to have a data. Then thereafter, we should be able to analyze it, where we will be able to carry out predictive analysis. Then we go to the AI, where we are looking at machine learning or evolving AI or the generating AI, etc., what we are talking about. So what we have done, that we have some regional training notes. We have the MOUs with various IITs to work towards that. We have single source of truth in the complete Indian Army, which we are evolving with the information system, what we are having. So we have the data at various places. But in a gradual manner, slowly we will have to integrate that, because while integrating that data, we should not let loose some information which is more than confidential. So that we are looking at. We are, as of now, working on the APIs or the gateways so that the various data can talk to each other. Once that happens, then we will move towards the AI. Now, in between, what is to be done? That the HR which is there, that is required to be trained in the AI. That we are working out. Then we have opened our AI incubation cell. Deputy Chief, since he's sitting here, he went to Bangalore recently and he signed with Bell the AI incubation cell, so that we work together and we have our younger generation, which is going to be the future, will get trained in it. And I'm sure within 3-4 years, what we are looking at, we should be able to combine the data and the AI together. Meanwhile, we are having a lot of things, for example, chatbot for the veterans we are having. So those initial stages of AI, we have been able to achieve a lot. Now, how to plug the security gaps? That is something, a challenge which we are having, and we are working towards that, and we are not fully prepared towards that, I can say that.
You spoke about grey zone warfare as well. How do you think India is poised, given the fact that increasingly conflicts are being fought with non-military means? And we've seen that even in military conflicts, we've seen how Israel, for instance, penetrated the Hezbollah network. We've heard concerns from the leadership in the Indian Army, including General Rawat, who spoke about the 2.5 front that India faces. Are we making progress to equip ourselves to fight that war?
See, army was always, if I can say that, if you take a surgeon, whole life is operating on a mannequin, and thereafter only one time he gets to operate on a real patient. So that is how the army is preparing itself. Now is the time, we all have decided that war will come when it comes. But the period which is in between, which is in grey zone, which does not, for example, do we call Doklam a war? Do we call Kargil a full-fledged war? Do we call Galwan a war? The answer is no. So they all form part of basically the grey zone battle. So we need to prepare for that. And I keep saying for that, the two CO must converge as far as thought process is concerned. That means the commanding officer and the chief of army staff. So what it means that the complete level has to have a common thinking, because a small tactical misaction will lead to a strategic ramification where the whole of nation may get approached, involved. So keeping that in view, we are preparing ourselves for the grey zone battle. And here, this cyber, the EW, cognitive domain. What we talk about cognitive domain when we talk about the battle of narratives, it is not only for the adversary across. Our own population, when I include the veterans and related families, we find that 1.3 crores is the population of the defense. That population also is required to be protected, and the correct information must come out. That's what I say, battle of narratives. So in all the domains, we need to prepare ourselves, and the check has to be given that what is the degree of delegation which is required to carry out actions within this gray zone. So there are various levels we are controlling that.
You spoke about Make in India in defense and enabling private players and government players as well. There was recently a report that we saw. India recently placed an order for 73,000 6-hour firearms, the second order in 5 years. But some Indian weapons makers questioned it, and they said that why not use Indian-made firearms? How do we balance then strategic needs with Make in India in defense?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Very good question, I must say that. So now begin with, I will take you back to American Civil War. The range between the two fighting forces used to be 75 meters because the weapon could fire only 75 meters. So they used to sit behind a tree log, fire and get back to refill. Now I'll take you back again, back to 1988 when I, as a youngster, was showing to the Army Commander 5.56 in SAS weapons. What came up? The rifle got approved, the LMG got approved, but I remember as a commanding officer, even I couldn't let go of 7.62 mm LMG. Then the carbines, no change. And the carbine, even today, do we have a replacement? Now we'll go to 2013-14. 2013-14, we tried a level best that the private players should be allowed to be given license for the small arms production. What happened? Nothing. So what has happened? India over a period of time has been left behind in such kind of a technology which should have been kind of a developed much earlier. I have been in the business of procurement from 2012 onwards. What I have seen every year, everybody has been saying, look, I can provide, subject to. So moment you add subject to, that becomes difficult. When I was the DG infantry, I went to a kind of a firm in Bangalore, and I said, okay, you made a beautiful sniper. Now you tell me what, can you give it? Is it made in India? He said, no, sir, actually rifling takes place at so-and-so place, the barrel is imported from so-and-so place, the ammunition is imported from so-and-so place. So here we have the caliber, but are we able to integrate? Had we been able to integrate, the carbine should have been there with us today. Today we have the SMC 9mm, which we are still saddled with. So what have we done about it? Now, today's 6-sword, the weapon which is there, has got a 500-meter range. It is one of the best weapons in the world. And in 2019, during General Rawat's time, this was approved. And that time it was discussed that if it weapons proof good, then only for the frontline troops, I'm using the word only for the frontline troops of the infantry and mech infantry, this will be given. Because your weapon is not only for killing the other, it is also for protecting you for that 500 meters which has to come. The enemy has to move in. Because you don't have any protection. You have only helmet on. So you are protecting yourself by only firing. Therefore, this is very, very important and is also involved in the bayonet fighting. So keeping that in view, the 73,000 were imported earlier. Now you cannot saddle a soldier, ye below means 5-6 types of weapons he can't handle. So therefore, it is pertinent to give him the weapon with which he feels most comfortable. So we have given him the full amount now what is required by the frontline soldier, and the deficiency is being filled in by AK-203. As you are aware, in collaboration with the Russians, we are producing it in India, and it will be great success. Now the other rifles, other LMGs, other carbines, all will be coming from the Make in India initiative.
Yeah, I think that should be it for now. But thank you very much, General Dwivedi, for taking all the questions and speaking so openly about issues that can be complicated.
Thank you, Palki. And thank you for helping me out. And with your bright smile, I could actually remain confident. I'm very thankful for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, the Chief of the Army Staff shared his vision on how the armed forces are integral in safeguarding our nation's interest, fostering inclusivity, growth, and stability. Thank you very, very much, sir. And Palki, thank you so much for moderating this insightful and, may I say, a discerning conversation. And on that note, I would request the Chief of the Army Staff, our esteemed chief guest, to please join us for the high tea in the foyer area. Ladies and gentlemen, rest of us are requested to be here until the Chief of Army Staff leaves the Ashoka Hall. right after this. We will now request our esteemed guest to kindly partake some refreshments, recharge themselves for the 20 minutes, next 20 minutes. We request you to be back for the first panel discussion exactly in the next 20 minutes. Just to reiterate, this event will be broadcasted live on the YouTube channels of ADGPI Internami, Clause, and First Post as well, where we are at the curtain raiser of the Chanakya Defense Dialogue 2024. We see you back in the house in the next 20 minutes. Please enjoy your break. Ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed guest, may we request you to please settle down and set the house in order. We are just about to resume. Welcome back, our esteemed guest. I hope you are refreshed, re-energized after all the conversation that brimmed during your hot cup of tea and coffee. And having said that, we will now go ahead and engage over a pivotal panel discussion on the theme Secure Nation and Prosperous Future, Bridging the National Security and Growth and Development. Well, this discussion will Sure. This discussion will delve into how a secure environment is not just a prerequisite for economic growth, but also a catalyst for sustainable development. Join me in now warmly welcoming our session chair, Vice Chief of the Army Staff, Lieutenant General N.S. Raja Subramani, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Sena Medal, and Vishisht Seva Medal. The General Officer was commissioned into the Garhwal Rifles in 1985. He, in his illustrious career, ladies and gentlemen, spanning over 37 years, has served across a wide spectrum of conflict and terrain profiles and has tenanted a host of command, staff, and instructional appointments. We will request him to please take the stage. Thank you for those round of applauses. And with that, a very, very warm welcome to you, sir. With that, ladies and gentlemen, join me in now welcoming our distinguished panelist. Well, this is to inform you that Dr. Chintan Vaishnav, Mission Director for Atal Innovation Mission, was a part of this panel discussion. However, due to urgent official engagement with the Honorable Prime Minister, he had to leave after the first session. May I now further invite Lieutenant General P.R. Shankar, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Vishisht Seva Medal, retired, a former Director General of Artillery, to please step forward. He is a highly decorated officer, the Indian Army, with 4 decades of service indeed. He gave great impetus to the Indianization of and the modernization of artillery and was instrumental in induction of guns, rocket and missile systems. The General Officer is now a professor in the Aerospace Department of IIT Madras. Warm welcome to you as well, sir. May we now invite Lieutenant General Madhuri Kanitkar, Param Vishisht Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Vishisht Seva Medal, retired. Well, she assumed the prestigious appointment of Vice Chancellor of Maharashtra University of Health Sciences, Nashik, after 39 years of service in the Indian Army Corps. She is a medical graduate of Armed Forces Medical College, Pune University, serves as a member on the Prime Minister's Science, Technology and Innovation Advisory Council. A warm welcome to you as well, ma'am. Thank you so much. May we now invite Shri Okain Taing, Honorable MLA of the Arunachal Pradesh. He specializes on adventure tourism and leadership, a member of the National Tourism Advisory Council, Ministry of Tourism, Government of India. Well, he is also the chairman, Northeast Chapter Adventure Tour Operators Association of India. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. And may I now invite forward, join me in welcoming Shri S.S. Sarma, Scientist G, who's working as Director of Operations in the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team, CERT-IN, with an overall experience of 33 years in computer communications, broadcasting, and cybersecurity. He's been handling computer security incidents reported to CERT-IN and coordinates response and remediation actions for incidents of malicious code infections, botnets, web intrusions, and attacks on industrial control systems. On that note, a very, very warm welcome to you as well, sir. And having welcomed the panel, we will hand it over to our session chair for the further proceedings.
Thank you. Our distinguished guests, esteemed panelists, participants. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this curtain raiser of the Indian Army's international flagship seminar, the Chanakya Defense Dialogue. The theme of this year's seminar is Drivers in National Building, Fueling Growth Through Comprehensive National Security. For today's session, the topic that we want to discuss is Secure Nation and Prosperous Future, Bridging National Security with Growth and Development. As you are aware, national security and economic development are interlinked with each other. The chief also, during his talk, referred to this. You can't have one without the other. If you are economically developed, you will be able to spend money towards national security. You will be able to spend money towards technological development, and you will be able to spend money on your defense forces. If you are not secure, you cannot economically develop. There are a number of facets as far as national security are concerned. We have got our four speakers, distinguished speakers here, General Shankar, General Kanitkar, Mr. Sarma, and Mr. Oken Thayang, the MLA from Arunachal Pradesh, who will be speaking on various facets. General Shankar would be speaking on the overarching aspect between interrelationship between national security and economic development. General Kanitkar, I would like to ask her about issues related to women empowerment and how they impact national security. Mr. Oken Thayang, I would like to ask him about how border security, border tourism impacts national security and economic development. And Mr. Sarma would be speaking to us about how technology impacts national security, both in terms of its advantages and challenges. I would like to first start with General Shankar to set the stage. Sir, thank you and welcome. I would like to ask you as to how do our strategic national security policies, how do they impact our economic policies? And what is the interrelationship between the two?
Yeah, thanks a lot for that question. At the outset, a good morning to all of you. And thank you, Klaus, for inviting me and the Indian Army for inviting me over on this panel. The interrelationship between economics and security. You know, we all talk of Viksit Bharat. We also talk of Surakshit Bharat. Viksit Bharat and Surakshit Bharat are two sides of the same coin. There is no Suraksha without Vikas. There is no Vikas without Suraksha. And unless we are economically strong, we will not be able to be physically strong, or rather security from a national perspective. And this is best exemplified by Israel. Look at Israel, the way they've invested in technology, the way they've invested in their own economy. They are the biggest exporter of technology, latest cutting-edge technologies as we talk. And if you look at their income profiles and their GDP profiles, it has grown multifold in the past few decades. And as a result of which, they've become so strong, they are living in a hostile environment, as we all know. And we just spoke that they are about to enter Lebanon. What is the outcome of that war is a different story. If you look at their entire trajectory from the early days, from the 60s till date, it is their economic prosperity which has given them the strength to defend the nation and be what they are. So I think there's a deep connect between both these. The same thing applies to Russia. Russia has, before embarking on this war with Ukraine, has prepared itself economically. and sidestepped all the sanctions. And that's how they've grown and gone where they are. I think with these two examples, I've set the ball rolling, and we could take on things as we go along.
Right, sir. Thank you. Mr. O'Kane, I want to ask you, our border areas are really important. And the chief also related and spoke about our border villages being the first village rather than being the last village. So how can we promote border tourism to not only enhance our national identity, secure our own cartographic claims, but also integrate the borders along with the nation?
I would like to thank Klaus for inviting me here. This is my second visit to this prestigious premise, and it's always a matter of pride and invigorating, energizing to be in presence of top brass and the heroes and protectors of our country. So I come from a proper border state. You know, we have Bhutan in the west, and Myanmar in the east, and Tibet, China in the north. So, I mean, I'm from the tourism background. You know, I operated in tourism sector over a decade. And interestingly, one of my partners in the beginning of my tourism career was from the army, a gentleman called General Chandan Dugyal. And those days, the infrastructure in the early 2000s, there was hardly any hotels or any facilities in Arunachal Pradesh. So we always used the army facilities, army hospitality, army backup. Then also my first boss and my mentor friend who passed away, a man called, gentleman called Binayshil Oberoi. He was Indian ambassador to UNESCO, and also he was a joint secretary in MOD. So even through him, I had lots of army exposure. So lots of things I've learned in terms of hospitality, housekeeping definitely come from the military. So now coming back to our topic, you know, for some reason, you know, our border area has been kind of overprotected. You know, it's a kind of area where even civilized cannot access properly. But now we are in a age where infringement doesn't always come from the physical border. You know, it's different from a different medium and different areas. So I'm really glad the government, the current regime has changed the perspective, and then army is more open, the military is more open. Now here we are talking about tourism with army, which is lots of a long due. So, I mean, there's lots and lots to be done. I mean, but at the same time, what is important is we should have a very sustainable approach. The bad thing that can happen, the good thing that can happen. So unless we have a very well planned, clear policy, you know, that has to be in place before proceeding further.
Thank you for that. I'll come back to you again on this issue. General Kanitkar, you have broken the glass ceiling as far as women are concerned. So I would like to ask you as to how do you view, or in your own experience, what are the professional challenges that you faced as you rose up in your career, and how can women overcome these challenges? That's one. And how does the role of women and increasing role of women in various careers, professions contribute to national security?
Thank you so much, and I again thank Klaus for inviting me here and helping me recharge and reboot coming to the armed forces portals once again. I'll start with a little, interesting this thing that when you empower a woman, what is it? I'll give you a simple example. I mean, I hold large number of portfolios today and travel a lot. My husband never comes in. But see how you empowered me, Klaus. For this session, my husband came down from Nasik while I came in from Chennai. So that's a simple, lighter vein.
A big hand, big hand.
So when it comes to women, I think I'll look at it in another way. When you empower, firstly, women form 50% of our population. The gross enrollment ratio in higher education is more than 50% now coming from women. So why should we leave them out in the growth and Viksit Bharat story? So keeping that in mind, I think it's very important that and very good that the Armed Forces is opening its portals to more and more women. And about the glass ceiling, I don't think there was any glass ceiling as such. Yes, it took a gap of 14 years for me to become the third Lieutenant General woman. But as I speak today, we have the DG AFMS a woman, the DGMS Army a woman, and soon the DGMS Navy is going to be a woman. So that is empowering the armed forces, bringing it. And these are the women, you're not just empowering women, but you're empowering the nation. Because when we look at the number of women who are coming in, who are beyond their organization, going back to lead the nation. And in the same way, again, lighter vein, the day I retired and the governor asked me to take over the Maharashtra University of Health Science, which is the largest state health university with 600 colleges in Maharashtra affiliated to it. But in 2 years, from it being an affiliating, laid back this thing, and with again a support of the same buy one, get one free, 2 generals on the campus, and people are calling it the Military University of Health Sciences. So that is, I think, the empowering that the armed forces gives, and that is what we can take back. So I think we can address some of the challenges and way forward subsequently.
Okay.
But I thought I'll just set the ball rolling about the contribution of women in every sphere, coming into the armed forces and then going beyond to give back to the nation.
Thank you, General Chanakya. I think we can compliment ourselves as the armed forces for having 3 women who are leading our medical services, all 3 of them. So, as far as Mr. Sharma is concerned, now in the previous session, Ms. Palki Sharma also referred to pagers, walkie-talkies, how Israel found the Hezbollah and the security challenges. So I would like to ask you as to how advancement in cyber security as well as technology are contributing to the overall national security, and what are we as India doing to harness these technologies?
At the outset, good morning. It's a privilege to be part of this conversation over here. I am a practitioner of cybersecurity. I am from CERTIN. We are the National Agency for Cybersecurity Incident Response. So first of all, coming to cybersecurity and the technological advantage. Needless to say today, the digital transformation has entered to all walks of life, being it the financial, transport, communication, entertainment. As such, from the economical growth perspective and as well as national security perspective, the information that is flowing across our networks and the more and more connectedness of the critical systems, it's all boiling down to a different ballgame of information warfare as well as the connected systems. Coming to cyber security, earlier the computers and computer security is to be a technical domain. Today it's a more of a strategic domain because of the connectedness we have. And it's a vital part of the economy also, the cyber security, because there's always a flow of information and data, and there's always a angle of, from a warfare perspective, the adversaries can steal vital information if it is not protected. And as General mentioned in the earlier talk also, there are creation of narratives. The way information is being propagated earlier is to do advertisements and speeches, and today it's the information flow of information, creation of false narratives is very fast through social media or proliferation of IT. Anybody can create a story, morph the pictures, use the AI and deepfakes to camouflage these pictures and create false narratives. So that's influence operations is another important aspect. And the third aspect is the, because of our way the critical infrastructure is now connected more in the cyberspace, disruption of these critical services is also another dimension that we have to take care. These are the challenges we have in the cybersecurity. And as such, the importance of cybersecurity is to sort of using the advantages of the latest developments like in the blockchain, the AI, for protection of the data and increasing cyber resiliency to continue our services. And in the cyberspace, there is another angle is should be a collaboration between the government as well as the industry and the academia. It's not a single dimension that one agency can do this particular thing, because there are more and more very agile and dynamic technologies coming up, so that the capacity building and skill set and the more and more sophisticated learning and very quick learning and capability building is required in this space the way we are.
Thank
That's
you.
what
Thank
the
you, Mr.
initial
Sharma. I'll come back to you with more questions on both the advantages and disadvantages of technology. I would like to come back to you, General Shankar, sir. You spoke about national security and economic development, but I would now like to focus on the issue of border area development and how national security goals can be aligned to border area development. Does development of the border impinge on national security or it enhances national security? Mr. O'Kane also referred to the fact that previously we had restrictive policy. We were not allowing anybody to go to the forward areas in a probably misplaced sense of security. So could you illustrate on that?
Thanks a lot. I think after a long time, more than half a century of debate, we have now in India, we're very clear that the progress of the border area enhances our security, where the people of the country on all our borders get connected to one theme all over the nation. Earlier, if you went to Ladakh or to Sikkim or to Arunachal Pradesh, their thinking processes were different. But today that has changed. It has changed with communication. It has changed with roads and all. And then the economic development which has taken place. Right? From there, I remember way back in the 80s when I was about to get married, I couldn't communicate from Sikkim down to Chennai. It took me 3 days to communicate. But today you do it in less than 3 minutes at less than 1/300th of a cost. So there's a huge change, and this has triggered a change fully. So I think the economic development of our underdeveloped areas are critical, not only to develop our economy and progress, but also strengthen our security. Because a strong border is a strong system. There's another thing. Today morning we spoke of the Zeokong villages and all that. Look, what is Mr. Xi Jinping trying to do by settling people there? He's defining the border. He says, look, whether it succeeds or not, this plan is a secondary part. But he's defining the LAC, and he says this is China. And if you closely look at it, the Zeokong villages, where the PLA is deployed and where infrastructure has come up, is approximately the line which Chonlai wanted in 1959, right? And similarly, unless you start developing this area, your own territorial integrity and sovereignty is at risk. So I think there's a whole way, different way we have to start looking at things. And I'm sure the way we are going as part of Viksit Bharat, and it's very heartening, to see a MLA from Arunachal Pradesh coming and talking of tourism, which he said, a few years back, all you knew about Arunachal Pradesh were by, writings from Vernier Elwin and things like that. I think there's a huge sea change, and this is the right way forward.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir. So on that note, I'll come back to Mr. O'Kane again. So while development happens and we are building infrastructure, it has a flip side. There is environmental degradation. And as tourism also comes in, local communities, while they develop, they also get affected. There's a problem. They start losing their cultures in the guise of commercialization. So how do you look at sustainable tourism with environmental conservation, as also ensuring that the local communities have a role in this and they retain their unique culture? How do you look at promoting this?
Yeah, it's primarily it comes back to what I stated earlier. We need a really well thought out, articulated plan as to how we approach this. First of all, the kind of infrastructure you put up there has to be of dual purpose, meaning it has to serve the military purpose as well as tourism. Things like you can put up watchtowers and helipads, so which can be used for tourism activities, but at the same time, it can be used for military purpose as well. So that way, the resource will be well utilized. And number one, we must have create a value on the product we're creating there. So firstly, what would The good thing about this would be, it will expose rest of the countries to the culture and uniqueness of the people living in the border areas, which they are bit, sometimes they have, their knowledge has been limited. Just like a gentleman, I think, sometime last year remarked that people from North look like European, South looks like African, and East looks like. So just to mitigate those kind of notions, I think it's very important that we expose our countrymen from East to West, West to East. And border tourism, as it is, has been a very, very interesting, wherever it is. You look at Wagah border or in Rajasthan. And I used to work with a French company. They used to have a caravan. It's a 9-month travel. They start from France, those days when things were good in Syria, Lebanon, Iran, Afghanistan, Bhutan, coming through Arunachal. And it's a bit like a reality show. By the time you spend 3-4 months with somebody, there are lots of fights, some people getting divorced, somebody finding out that his son hasn't done well. There are lots of mind games going on. But the moment they reach the border, the moment they get to More in the Burmese border, and that they know that their permission to cross over has been done, it's always invigorating excitement, So border can be a very good product, but at the same time, nothing is more important than national security. But I think exposing people there, people traveled in the border areas, they can also be a soft surveillance mechanism, So we know what things are going on. Like I stated earlier, infringement is not physical border anymore. There are many, many other spaces that comes from.
Thank you. General Kanitkar, you spoke, you gave us an insight as to what you have been doing and the role of women and as to how empowerment of women contributes to national security. So could you give us some insights as to what policies or initiatives that the government can move forward to ensure that there is more and more participation of women in society, whether it be education, whether it be empowerment opportunities for jobs or contribution to nation building or community development?
I think that's a very, very important question that we need to move towards true inclusivity against tokenism. For example, today, they have a policy for that every board of directors on the companies need to have a woman. And I've been sort of asked to join companies which I have nothing to do with, and I've refused. Because I know that it is just for a tokenism, a tick mark that we have a senior lady there. So from that, instead of that, we are moving towards, so I think that DIE spirit, which the armed forces is inculcating by getting women in every sphere, is very important. It acts on 2 ways. Firstly, why are women coming into the armed forces? Because today, I think the nation looks up to the armed forces as one of the most respected, reliable organization. And when a woman dons a uniform, she becomes a role model. So even if, like he mentioned, when you go to the rural parts, and if you want to really, and you have girls coming from there and wearing a uniform, there are hundreds of girls who are looking up to that iconic, woman in uniform. And she can then contribute a whole lot. So that's one thing. But the government itself is doing a lot for these policies, and I think we in the armed forces can emulate some of the best practices of the organized sector in taking to encourage women. Because when joining in, I don't think, and the armed forces doesn't do any gender discrimination. In fact, a lot of interviews, I was asked that how did you survive in a male-dominated? And I looked quizzically and said it's hardly male-dominated. It's predominantly male. There's a difference. So I think but in the medical corps where we joined, we've always worked only for competence with no gender bias. So that's one thing. But however, there were policies. And I'll give a concrete example. Though we trained the same in AFMC, women were given short service only. So when women didn't look at it as a career. And that is why probably more left, especially when they got married, and they didn't have a posting policy to get the spouses to be together, at least sometimes. So my husband and me, 24 years, we were posted separately out of 36 years. So that required a lot of resilience to hang on there. And also the professionalism of doing post-graduation, super specialization were a hindrance. So women didn't look at the armed forces as a career. Today, women look at it as a career. They join to continue and give the best to the organization. And that shows, because there is a policy change, that women have now lead, and today there are so many at top, and all are super specialists in their own right. So this was possible only because of a changed policy, this thing. So permitting that, the posting, this thing of being, co-located as much as possible. But the big problem is when the woman is in the childbearing age. And it continues to be a hindrance when it's looked at. So for that, policy changes will have to come in, just as the IAS has the TDLR kind of, 20% extra. When we take in women, I think the armed forces will need to have that extra numbers so that it permits a woman, because it's her equal responsibility and social requirement that she does take time off to rear the future generation. So I think that is an important policy.
Sir.
Can I have just a word? It's a little dig at ourselves. She spoke of male-dominated army. We are all married. We know what our domination is all about.
So, hurrah and a shout out to all the women in the audience. But ma'am, General Chanakya, I wanted to ask you one question. Previously, we had joint families, and when women had children, their parents, and there was a support system. But today, more and more, there are nuclear families, and that support system is lacking. So, how can the government or even the private sector empower women to continue working even when they don't have this system?
I think that I was sort of, thought that would be the next question, but I think that's the most important. I mean, I could survive because every time I called Wolf, either my in-laws or parents would come, and I said, India luckily doesn't need nannies because we have nannies. But now put that into today's generation. I'm not available for my children at their beck and call. And this is happening in every family, where the grandparents continue to have their own life and careers and are not available for every beck and call. So hence policies which the corporate sector is looking into. My daughter-in-law is an HR person. Flexi time, work from home. For the need times that are possible, can we look at that? But more important, can we provide a support system? And when I was serving, I tried to do that, of mandating creches, which are not key, put some ayah and do, but having professionally run creches where people can really get that and they know their child is secure with webcams and everything. So these are some of the issues I think that we need to look into.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Sarma, you spoke about the advantages of cybersecurity, advantages of technological empowerment, but there are flip sides also in terms of leakage of information, lack of cybersecurity awareness, and so many scams that are taking place. So in terms of what is the government of India doing and to empower, to enhance security, to coordinate as a whole of nation approach, could you throw some light on that? Also, one more issue, with technological advancement, there is also a concern about the right to privacy. So how are we balancing that?
This is a very important question. Today, first of all, most important and disruptive advantage or technological advancement happened is AI, basically. In every parts of life now, students are pursuing more AI, and it's going to be very, very important aspect in the way the things are looked at. So as General mentioned in the morning talk, the AI is essentially dependent on the data. So the AI model or the way AI functions or ML works is essentially on the kind of data you have supplying to the model. So here the issue is while adapting AI, wherein the organizations or individuals as users, people use Gen AI and other models that are possible. Most important thing is there is a need to create awareness and training on safe usage of AI. In the sense, while you supply the data of organizational data to an AI model or the outside open source tools, etc., we should be very, very careful about not supplying the organization-specific sensitive data. There should be anonymization of data, and the data you are supplying to the AI models is to be sanitized that way. Second most important thing is from a normal civilian organization perspective, the PII, personally identifiable information, that should not be supplied very easily to these AI models. That is one aspect of using the AI. Second is from an adversarial point of view. Even if you deploy AI and mechanisms and use these things in the technologically, there is always a chance of poisoning your AI model or creating a false narrative by supplying wrong data into the AI systems. That's why the protection of your training data and the protection of your foundation model of the AI is a very, very important aspect while using AI. That is coming to the AI. In general also, because of the way the technology is there in the financial transactions, everybody now using the UPI and digital public infrastructure in the mobile phones, etc. There is always innovation in terms of cyber criminals, and there is always a challenge to create awareness at scale. So we are having a very important programs, like in certain we handle cybersecurity incident, we provide inputs to the information security education and awareness program of the Ministry of Electronics and IT, where we are collaborating with the academicians and research institutions to create content, particularly in the local languages, because we have to reach out to the rural population, students, and we're creating contents for the students, for the parents, for the teachers, for the senior citizens, in local languages, so that to explaining about the various kinds of scams that are happening, like the new scam of digital arrest and those kind of things, and creating awareness. Nevertheless, it's a very challenging field, very agile. Daily new developments are coming up, and there is a way, and there are opportunities also in terms of cybersecurity as well as other things also. And we have a advantage in the sense of a large number of young people and more colleges and schools and universities offering cybersecurity courses today. And there is also a need to take a policy decisions to inculcate cybersecurity education within the career at various stages also. That's also very important.
Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Sir, I'll come back to you. And in your second career after retirement from the armed forces, you've done a lot as far as working on technology is concerned and working with the defense forces on technology is concerned. What do you think would be the role, and the chief also spoke about technology and dime T. So what do you think would be the role of technology in enhancing national security? And how should the armed forces equip themselves or keep pace, their procurement procedures on pace with the rapid changes in technology?
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a very deep question. I'll take a little time because it's layered. First and foremost, we've spoken a lot about AI. Today the chief spoke about it, and Mr. Sharma has also spoken about it. And it seems to have caught all our imagination. I'll give a slight contra view. I wouldn't say a contra view, an alternate view for which people have to think of. 3 years back when AI came on the scene, it was the big thing, right? When ChatGPT-4 got declassified, ChatGPT-4. But today, a lot of major companies who produce AI have stopped investing in it because they're not getting return on investment, right? So take AI with a pinch of salt. Second thing, AI is getting democratized so fast that you don't need to be original anymore. You can catch AI on the fly, and I think that's where India has to leverage its own strength to get there. But having said that, there are certain core areas where you have to deploy AI sensibly. AI is not, like it's not a paracetamol pill you can give it for everything. You need to be focused on which part of AI you want to use where, on a case-specific basis. That much about AI. The second thing, you spoke about technology and how to get it on the armed forces and what we have to look and all that. Again, the way I look at it, I'll take it off from where Palki Sharma asked this question to the chief, and chief gave a very sensible answer. Look, in the field of technology, India is where it is. And we have to fight our war today with what you have, right? And in fact, the current A chief also said, that's one thing, and to be Atmanirbhar and all that, you have to fight with what you have. So whatever you have today, your procurement, whether it's from abroad or from within Atmanirbhar, you have to go ahead. There's no two ways about it. But what do you do tomorrow is the question. How do you explore frontiers of technology to use in a use case tomorrow is the question. You have to invest into technology, right? Look at Israel. Again, I'll get back to Israel. You see the way this whole war is with Hezbollah is, panned out. And for that matter, Ukraine and USSR. Ukraine and Russia. Technology has played a heavy hand in it. There's no doubt. The way wars have been fought, uh, technology has had all cutting-edge technologies being deployed. Whoever thought EW will function the way it did, whoever thought that ECCM and ECM and electronic support measures which we learned in those trees, worked the way they did. And how did they work? They worked with investment in technology. And is this technology only confined to the military domain? No. You look at Pegasus and software like that and all that, which grows across all. So you're looking at a huge civil-military fusion. Sure. And civil-military fusion is not something confined to China alone. Israel has done it. America did it in the last century, right? And something which we need to do in a bigger manner. I think that's the watchword. And then you are there. Now the next question which comes to mind is, what are we doing about it? We are probably in the starting curve where we are going beyond the firewall of DRDO for technology. Till very recently, DRDO was the only sole provider of technology for the armed forces. I think the armed forces have broken the shackles and they are going beyond this to get technology into other places. And technology is not only AI, cyberspace, and things like that. You're looking at unmanned systems, you're looking at new technologies, nanotechnologies, quantum computing, which is tomorrow, and whole lot. I have identified about 12 technologies which I keep showing everywhere. I didn't get that slide because if I put that slide up, then someone will say the vice chief and I had a pre-arrangement to what we have to show. Right, but be that as it may, I think we need to start investing into it. We have to take risk because when you invest into technology, there's a risk involved of failure. Right. But so be it. Before I conclude, I'd like to I'd like to focus on something. Look at today, what we have spoken of. For the first time probably in the history of the army, you had the chief and the vice chief coming on stage and talking, setting stage for a dialogue. And the dialogue has been largely about a lot of technology. I think that's a direction. I think, and to make this happen, I've been interacting for the past 8 years with all the deputy chiefs, all three deputy chiefs, the chief and the vice chief. I think personally, for me, after 8 years, when I see this happening, it's a great change. And full kudos to all this. And I'd like to also thank Dushyant Singh for putting all this together. It's a sea change which is happening. Okay, why is this sea change? I'd like to put this across. Why is this sea change happening is very interesting. And this sea change pertains to the armed forces. Few years back, I couldn't think of what I'm doing today. I'm just putting it across that we are on the verge of establishing a center in IIT for research into future technologies with the army. And I'm proud today that the army is one which is taking this risk and getting in. I might fail in some, I might succeed in some. Why am I proud of the army? The army has broken all shackles. And unfortunately, the other services are not to be seen on this horizon. And I'm making an open statement, it's a challenge to them also. Because I see representatives of other services, one of them is scratching his head, right? And, okay, and this is not my view. I'm being very serious. This is not my view. This is the view of all my colleagues in IIT Madras. Okay? And all I can say is this is a great beginning. Please continue taking the risk. Because if you take risk, you will succeed someday. You might fail today. But someone down the line will succeed. Sir. And all I'll say is wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Sir, in the spirit of jointness and in the spirit of fairness, I must say that while Air Force and Navy may not have engaged with IIT Madras, but the Navy and Air Force are also technologically engaged, and we have copied them at certain places. For example, the Navy already has an AI incubation center, which we are copying. And similarly, we are closely working with the Air Force to look at various aspects. And I regularly interact with both the Vice Chief of Naval Staff and the Vice Chief of Air Staff, and we are exchanging ideas to that extent. So, it's not they are with us, if not ahead of us.
No, I have no doubt about it. In fact, I went to Mazdocks, spent 3 months there before I became the DGRT to learn how they went about their shipbuilding. And after that, when I came and took over as a DGRT, I could effect changes in the artillery system. So there's a lot to learn. I'm just saying at this point of time, that's the state of affairs. And the reality on ground, and I'm sure they'll do course correction as we go along.
Oh, thank you, sir. General Kanetkar, final words. Now, I would like you to give some words of advice to the younger generation of women who are just starting and who are already in their careers. What do you think are the challenge? I mean, what do you think they should do? Firstly, to have a good work-life balance, to balance, advance professionally, and where should their focus be?
I think that's very important that once they're coming in, looking at it as a career, keeping on increasing your competence, that is the only way forward. It is, and in that I would say that today I am not just a Lieutenant General retired, but even while serving, the only person on the Prime Minister's Science, Technology, Innovation Council, and that was for the competence. And that I think is the important thing, that if you're professionally competent, you can get into all spheres. For the armed forces itself, I think security goes beyond, like we spoke of gray zones, but I think there are even more. When you look at today, whether it's a biological, we saw COVID. I mean, it didn't require, you need security is food security, security is cyber security. In that, you don't need to sort of only have, you need technical expertise within the armed forces and outside. And the DBT, DST, all the science and technology are really investing in women for this reason. Because if you remember, Mangalyaan went to the thing and most of the scientists were women. The scientists behind the COVID vaccine were all women. So when we come to science and technology, there's definitely a scope. And since we are rapidly moving towards modernization, opening our doors to the technical expertise in whether it's not gender biased, but getting them more and more women in is going to help. And for the women, my advice would be try to be less than perfect, because we tend to multitask. We have better communication skills. Men are from Mars, but we are from Venus. So we are different. And so I don't think we need to be like men or men like to be. I think we need to bring that diversity to the table, remaining women. I think that is the crux of it, and therefore not feel very guilty if we have to take some time out to look after a sick child, which was not the case when I was serving. You kind of felt this thing, but today's young women do not. So I think they are quite balanced. Thank you so much.
Thank you, General Kanetkar. 2 points. Firstly, I would like to compliment General Kanetkar here on the dais for supporting you throughout and you for supporting him. That's one. And on a lighter note, when you said that women should be less than perfect, I think all women should expect their husbands also to be less than perfect.
Accepted.
Yes. So, Mr. O'Kane, again, final concluding words. While tourism and border development is good for security, etc., but it also has an effect on communities, like say outsiders coming in, developing hotels, and the benefits not going to communities. So how do we balance between these two?
Before I answer, let me just compliment to what ma'am has stated about gender issues. I would like to, happy to announce that for the first time in our assembly of 6 MLAs, we have 5 women MLAs this time. So it's a matter of pride for us. And then,
so you are standing up for men's empowerment in the assembly?
Not really, not really. What I'm trying to say is the beauty, the grace, the gentleness, the kindness that women bring cannot come from anywhere else. So we are happy to have them. Yeah, so coming back to the topic, like you said, we have to, I think the main thing is we have to go very, very slow and observe where we're leading to, because border areas are not only physically isolated, but it is ecologically very, very pristine. You get to see plants and animals and organisms you don't see anywhere else. It's well preserved because, we don't allow too many people there. So what kind of ecological impact? And also the cultural impact, the delicate, unique culture of the area is not diluted, trampled, and sometimes, cultural appropriation. Now, for example, the Buddha's head is put up in spas and all kinds of places. So, you have things like Christian yoga. I mean, not that, things like that. So we have to, see the fine line between a compliment and then cultural dilution, appropriation. And then the other thing is what I really like to emphasize is the telecommunication in the border area really has to improve. It will serve the purpose of the tourist, military operation, and also the local area. Because now we are at the age where your everything is hooked up. Your health, the time you have your breakfast, time you have your morning walk is all, through a mobile interface. So that has to be in a place. So I think about 2 years ago, we were invited along with our CM and Chief Secretary to a place called Yache, which is our Chinese border in Tawang. So, and we have the Sikh regiment there. It was Guru Nanak's birthday. So by the time we go to a place called, there's a Sumigachir waterfall, I could see the time in my watch and my mobile has changed. It was already a few hours ahead. So I asked one of the officers, they said, no, we are in Chinese time. I said, I'm technologically slightly challenged, but why can't we have the Chinese look at their mobile phone and show them the Indian Standard Time? And on a lighter note, with the Sikh regiment there, उनके घड़ी में जब हमारी 12 बजे दिखेंगे तो उनका दिल में खौफ आना चाहिए. So, those things has to be in place. So the main thing is to go slowly and go organically and involve the local. The local has to understand they are really benefiting from them. They are economically benefiting and they're enriching their, fostering a national pride to understand how much this nation has given to us. Recently, I just came back from Commonwealth Parliamentary Association training in Malaysia. So I sat down with MPs from most of the Commonwealth countries, and then Malaysian MP says, we don't have cars, they don't give us cars, they don't give us housing, they don't give us security. And then maybe that's for their own system, but I was thinking at myself, my blessings. I have 3 bodyguards, which I really don't need. I have a really nice house, and I have a guardian from the government. So now you have to see how much this country has given to us, and we must inculcate this national pride, patriotism to our younger generation, and from my part, through tourism. And I would like to announce, being from a tourism fraternity and with the National Tourism Advisory Council, so we're coming with 3 very unique products in Arunachal. Number 1 is the Ledo road, the Stillwell road, which you cannot replace anywhere else. This will be the only one in the world, and all of you know the history. And many, many countries, their whole tourism activity economy is completely based out of World War II, World War I memorials. In Europe, I was there just before the Normandy commemoration event. I could see how much was going on, in terms of economy. And Manipur, of course, is in a very bad shape now, but even Manipur was doing really well with the Second World War, memorial tourism. The same with Ledo Road, we are initiating, and the other one is I was selected by the government to assist the Americans to recover the lost planes during the Hum flight from northeastern region. So I worked with them for more than 10 years in these bilateral operations. Then we recently set up a museum last year. It was inaugurated jointly by our Honorable Chief Minister and the U.S. Ambassador. Then we had a visit from the Corps Commander. Then we had a joint Air Force contingent from Indian Air Force and a unit of American Air Force who flew in that mission. So that's one, and I would like all of you to come and visit the Hum Museum in Pasigat. And other product we're working on is the escape route of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama when he came from Tibet to India in 1959. Then it starts from a place called, it's right close to Dola Reach. So Kinjamane. Yeah. So I have brought stone carvers from Konoma in Nagaland with this big monoliths, 3 tons of them, and got the Naga Angami carvers to carve in Bodhi script describing wherever His Holiness has stopped. So this is 3 unique products I'm happy to share, and I ask all of you to help and cooperate, give your ideas on a personal and professional basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tang. I just want to inform Mr. Tang also, and also the audience, that the Government of India and the Armed Forces are working in concert to ensure that the telecommunication in the border areas are improved and we get 4G and slowly and steadily 5G also there. Simultaneously, we are looking at improving the power infrastructure also in the border areas. So, final words, Mr. Sarma, what do you have your concluding remarks on technology, cyber security, and anything else that you would like to say?
Main important strategies, basically what we advise to the organizations as well as main governments and departments, is the development and security building at the design stage itself, in the development life cycle. One is secure development, that is one important aspect. Second one is continuous audit and assurance about what we have. And General spoken in the morning about the supply chain. There is a supply chain become more complex now. As such, we should have a strategy for supply chain security, in the sense of having the final components of the things what we are getting, that like software bill of materials, those things we are advising the organizations while doing the procurements. You see the component level details. And then important thing is preparing for the unknown and black swan events, like the CrowdStrike event that happened, in the outages it resulted. To test our resiliency for running the operations, that is very important, by doing exercise and drills. We conduct drills for the organizations, and armed force also conduct drills for themselves. Similarly, in the cyber also, the drills and exercises need to be conducted more and more frequently, to test our resilience, not the security, but how we continue our operations. That's my
Thank you so much. I am sure all of you would have enjoyed the discussion, but it remains for me to thank our panelists, General Shankar, General Kanitkar, Mr. Sarma, and Mr. O'Kane. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being here and your valuable insights. And we'll definitely take all that forward. Thank you so much.
Since, with your permission, the woman likes to have the last word.
Yes, ma'am.
And
yes.
I'm out of uniform. I have your
Yes,
permission.
yes, please,
Thank you so
yes.
much. So you asked me about a last thing for the
Yes,
younger generation,
yes.
not just the younger and the older, and every woman and man sitting in this auditorium and beyond, is because today everyone is on a short fuse, is grow together without growing apart. And that's the book he's writing.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you. Jai.
Thank you very much, panel, for that compelling dialogue. May I request our Vice Chief of Army Staff to please help us with the felicitation ceremony, and of course our round of acknowledgement as we extend our gesture of gratitude. Thank you very, very much to our panelist, Lieutenant General Shankar. Thank you very much to Lieutenant General Kanitkar, Shri Tayeng, and Shri Sarma. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, the panel emphasized how comprehensive security indeed is foundational to nation building, particularly in the interconnected and, I must say, interconnected world that is undergoing dynamic changes and technological advancements all at the same time. We will request now our Vice Chief of Army Staff to extend our little way of saying thank you to our eminent panelists.